Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of four, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. I am joined today, this is a special presentation. I am joined by none other than the 86er, Jason Campbell, Able Shepherd number 86. What's up, my brother? I'm good, man. I'm so good. So you know why?
You're looking good, Jimmy. You're looking good.
Likewise. I need to work on my mane because I ain't rocking that kind of hair, but I'm feeling all right because mama gave me a haircut. And I feel fortunate because nobody gets haircuts. BK was just talking about that these days. But Rachel used to be a stylist, so I'm taken care of.
In-house.
On the poach, old school. We go on the concrete slab, and she makes long hairs and short hairs. So I don't even know what just happened. So Jason is an amazing guy. He's been a friend for over 2 years, and you come down from Big Sky Country.
That's right.
From Missoula, Montana.
That's right.
And you train with us in bursts, meaning you've been training all week. So the highlight of this crazy week last week, we've been setting up and knocking them down because we're doing new things at Centennial Gun Club in partnership with them. U.S. Law Shield, there's a bunch of new stuff happening right now. It's super exciting, and it's been crazy. But I know at least 2 hours of my day, I get to hit Control-Alt-Delete and shoot guns with Jason Campbell. So he came out, you got current, and tested with us this week. A little late night reconnaissance. I showed up over at Pinkham's place in the middle of the night. We grabbed another couple Coors Lights and
Coming slow, Jimmy. Coming slow.
I had to proceed lightly so I didn't get ventilated. So I had my hands up coming inside. That's a funny story too. I don't know if we're going to tell that one or not. But what would make a man drive all the way from Montana to Centennial, Colorado, to the Able Shepherd, the home of Able Shepherd, the Active Shooter Response Training Center at Centennial Gun Club.
And not just once.
And not that's correct.
Not just once.
Regularly, because we got some out of state folks that come in here. One, if you don't mind, how'd you hear about us? Like I said, 2 years ago you heard about us, and then I really want to talk about something sparked. And I hope I know the answer if I'm doing my job correctly. I hope I know what worked, but I want to hear it from you. Yeah. And I've heard this because I love talking to you, brother. We hang out. And if you don't say it organically, I'm definitely going to bait you into saying some things that we talked about the other night because I think that this is the perfect crowd because they want to hear it. These people are primed to hear the truth. And the other night was an amazing night, and we've had many of them.
Yep.
And it's a big deal. So take it away.
If you're okay with this, Jimmy, and I think you are, I'd like to talk about the full path. And because it was kind of a trek just teeing it up to get here. And I think that probably my story is something that a whole lot of other people would be very curious about and that I think they would engage in.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, I guess, lessons learned. So here's some of that story. 2.5 years ago, I had signed my wife and I up for a defensive handgun course. And so there's even story that leads up to that. But the crux of that is that I believe it's my responsibility to create opportunities for both my wife and I to engage in the right kind of training because we fundamentally believe that we're responsible for ourselves, and it's our responsibility to protect ourselves and the people around us that we love, and then extending beyond that. And so, how do you do that? And I've been asking myself how you do that for 40 years, and I come from a family of law enforcement and have been around the gun community and the law enforcement community for all of those years. And so how do I translate that kind of background into a training opportunity for my wife? So we sign up for this defensive handgun course in Missoula, Montana. And I very deliberately picked a specific trainer because of who he is as a man. And then after having had several classes with him solo, I felt really good about his approach to training. So, and bless my wife, she is so open to so many of my harebrained ideas and schemes.
You got to love those kind of women. Oh. I know another one here in town.
Yeah. And so she says, okay, Jace, I'll do the class. And it just so happened that our local trainer was hosting Mike Seeklander into Missoula. And so I was very interested in going through his program around defensive handgun. And so my wife and I had gone through that class. I was really impressed with the class, but also saw limitations in the class. And so from that class, it's like, okay, what's the next thing? And it just happened to turn out that and up to this point, I wasn't the kind of guy that signs up for a lot of, like, I hate stuff in my email inbox that's junk, that kind of thing. So I don't sign up for a whole lot of stuff. And so Mike Seeklander was talking about a podcast that he does, and he was talking about the American Warrior Society. And so there's this society, to me, equals a community of like-minded folks. And that absolutely was appealing to me. So I signed up for the podcast, and I know that that you and it would be great to kind of share, because I don't know if I know in detail how you got connected with Seeklander.
Yeah, can you introduce who Mike is real quick? So Mike is it USPC, is it IPSC, or he's a champion, national champion,
two-time national champion,
right? So I think it's USPSA or it's IPSC, or I don't know, one of those. But I guess we could just wrap it up and say, awesome shot, amazing guy. Yeah. How did I meet him? So we were on the Outdoor Channel. I'm going to say 2 to 3 times before. We've been on there 4 or 5 times, so I'm guessing at least half of those. I'll say 2, maybe 2 episodes where we came on as the SME's subject matter experts for active shooter. So they had a show on the Outdoor Channel called Best Defense. There was another one called Shooting Gallery. Shooting Gallery was the one where they came into the special on the Active Shooter Response Training Center. But then the other one was an active shooter in school scenario. One was a terrorist attack on the Best Defense, and we were on that kind of as a talking head, subject matter expert guy talking in the basement with the lights on. It was all dim and everything. Another one where it was more of a role where we kind of had a side-by-side role, meaning we were talking into this and saying, what does one do if they're caught in an active shooter in a school? So that's how I knew him. And in one of those, he had mentioned, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? So he called me, we set it up and everything, set up my computer, his computer, and had us on there. And what started out as kind of a gun guy kind of talk, which it's, whatever, those are okay, turned into a kind of a really cool, I saw a different part of Mike that I really respected. Yeah. And it was just super cool. We start talking about God, we talk about stuff that I wear on my sleeve. Like, if you don't know that I'm a Christian guy, I'm wrong, because you probably do. And if I don't, then let's talk Monday, whatever. And then he says, oh, well, me too. I'm like, oh, okay. So we start talking and everything. And then it just turns and takes a different level of, call it protector culture, call it American Warrior Society, call it what you want. We need more people on the front line, more good men for the right reasons on the front line.
Agree.
We were on that. You heard that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
What clicked?
Here's what clicked. There's multiple layers of click.
Yeah.
What clicked was this training environment that to me was ultimately what I was hungry for. And what I'm talking about in the training environment, in that podcast, you were able to describe reality-based training, 360 degrees, uniform, safe, and accurate. And I'm thinking, and obviously the podcast went into a whole lot more detail than that, right? But what I'm thinking is, I'm signing up for these defensive classes because I am responsible for protecting my family. And where is that going to happen, and when is that going to happen? If I'm preparing to defend my family at home, it's probably going to happen at night, statistically speaking. And so how do I engage in training? Well, you and I both know that standard gun ranges have so many restrictions to them that going dynamic on a range is very hard to access.
Yeah.
And so I'm hearing this guy, Jimmy Graham, talk about this amazing dynamic training environment. And in a nanosecond, I understand that that's what I've been looking for in terms of just the constructive skills.
Yeah.
That's what I've been looking for probably since the days I would go with my dad, when he was Umatilla County Sheriff, elected sheriff, or when he's chief of police somewhere. And we're out on the range with his law enforcement officers, and we're going through different training around that. None of that was dynamic.
Yeah.
And it was really stagnant. And so I'm thinking there isn't a formal line on the ground with a specific lane with a set distance, and that's not how it's going to go down if something goes bad with my family. And so I need to engage in that kind of a learning environment. And for the first time, I was hearing what I was defining as excellence in training. And we can go down that path too someday.
Maybe we should. Can I just jump in here real quick and talk about dynamics? So what does that mean? Because there was a class here called Dynamics of Pistol Shooting where you stand on the line and shoot. It's not dynamic. You're not even moving.
Thank you.
So what does dynamics mean? When I train my trainers, we have a thing called a DRSO. And then on the safety brief, we talk about DRSO, Dynamic Range Safety Officer. And that isn't even a thing that I've been able to find in the civilian community. That's a military term. I've got a piece of paper that says I am a certified Dynamic Range Safety Officer. I am a Master Training Specialist. I am a blah, blah, blah. All of this other stuff, what it means is when a range becomes dynamic, the rules change, the angles change, and it means that the shooter's now moving. I see a lot of people doing that now, but skipping the Dynamic Range Safety Officer part. They just go dynamic, but they don't know the rules to dynamic. Like, what are you doing? There's certain things there's certain rules and certain practices and principles that were put in place for the military for them to move certain angles, literally that you can be here, but you can't be here. And why? A certain way you walk. You can walk this way, but not this way. And why? It's very, very safe to do it when you bring the rules with you. So to the point, your point, if ranges aren't doing this, good. If they are doing dynamic movement without knowing how to do it, that's not good. It's okay. Let's walk around a bunch, and you get the videos, so do I, all over YouTube, and you're like, this is somebody's waiting to die, right? Not to be a drama queen, but when you don't know what you're doing, you start running around with guns, and then something happens, it happens too fast. I tell people, I'm fast, pretty fast guy, not that fast. I can't stop you from shooting yourself or your buddy. So when that happens, that's a bad deal. So when we say we train people to be a dynamic range safety officer, my instructors at that level that are on staff with me, instructors, have already done that. They've checked a box for DRSO. They are dynamic range safety officers. I will never see an improper angle. I will never see somebody doing A, B, C, and D. But when you skip that and just start winging it, that's where anybody who knows what they're talking about is uncomfortable. And if you're that gun owner, and you've got a gun range owner, and you've got guys doing that, and they can't explain certain rules, you need to hit pause. Because that was happening here. And when it came on, looked at it and saw what was happening. Like, oh, stop. And when we came on board, I'm like, this is not okay. You cannot do C before A. You have to do A, B, then C. So we've corrected that, and the management said, this needs to be corrected. They stopped some classes. We started some other stuff up, but that's just a bad road to head down. So like you said, it doesn't take a whole lot of common sense, and JC's got plenty. So Jason's like, this doesn't make sense to me. Okay, what if they attack me and there's a red line on the floor and I stand right here, I'm gold, but man, what does Leslie do? What do I do? What do these other people do? We say everybody has a role. What's my role? What's your role?
What's the plan? How do we communicate
the plan? Or if there is no plan, what are some fundamentals that we can lean on to get us from here to my car?
Right.
That's what people are skipping.
That's right.
And I've had people come in and say, we'll do some, and this was a security person from a school district. And he goes, well, I'm on board with the shooting part, but not this part. And I go, oh, you want to do tactical training and skip the tactics? I'm not okay with that because you're supposed to protect my daughter and you know how to move around the gun. And the reply was, well, I'm pretty comfortable with my shooting. That's not a standard. You're comfortable with your, my grandpa's comfortable with his shooting, whatever, and he's pointing at your face or whatever in his shotgun. Yeah, it's like, skin it, see what happens. Savvy? Anyways, if that's the standard, is everybody comfortable with their shooting? That's a recipe for disaster, right? And especially when we say we pride ourselves in teaching how to shoot, we also pride ourselves in teaching how to not shoot. When it's the teacher that comes around and startles you, when it's a kid, when it's whatever. So that's the part I'm hearing that you grabbed hold of and said something worth looking at. And then for you looking at isn't drive across Denver. For you, it's now you and Les coming down and spending a week. Was that the first one?
That's right. So here's the timeline on that is we have this class with Seeklander. That must have been October. So I start listening to that podcast, and I think that podcast must have happened in November. I can't remember, but it was somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Because I immediately reached out to Abel Shepherd, not knowing how any of that was going to go. Because the model that I heard you describing, I didn't know if it was going to apply to me.
Right.
And if it doesn't, is Jimmy Graham the kind of guy that takes that challenge and innovates? And he absolutely was already in the process of innovating. Mm-hmm. And so we came up with the solution. Like by January, we came up with the solution, and by April, we were driving down from Missoula. I want to back up a little bit in that the other significant piece to me that I'm thankful that you wear your faith on your sleeve is that this industry, you know this as good or better than anybody. This industry is full of individuals with opinions and resumes and a lot of other things. And there was no way I was going to pack my truck up and drag my wife, on a 13-hour drive unless I philosophically and fundamentally was in alignment with you. And so you and I had the chance to talk through not just how does Abel Shepherd approach things, but also talk about God.
Yeah.
And to me, that was, I didn't find that anywhere, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Rolling in and out of gun shops and looking for training here and looking for training there. And so how I approach life, how I approach business, to me, when Jason Campbell engages with somebody, it's for the long term. And the only way that happens is if we have values alignment. If we don't have values alignment, it's not happening.
Right.
Right. And so I know that Abel Shepherd, I know that Jimmy Graham, and I know that the community that's getting created is in total alignment. So I know that I'm bringing my wife into a very safe environment is the baseline. But then as it turns out, it's also a community that isn't just safe. It also compels growth, skills-wise, community-wise, spiritual-wise. I mean, all of those things, right? And so now, 2 years later, it's pretty easy jumping in that black tundra and bombing south. And hammer down, brother.
South and
that's right.
Southbound and down. That's amazing, and I appreciate that because obviously that's what we're aspiring to do. Is, as you said, in this industry, man, it's I can't talk too bad about it because they drive people right in our front door. Like I don't know that anybody that hasn't walked into a gun club had a horrible experience where some, probably a vet or somebody just talked smack to them, made them look like a fool in front of their wife, and then maybe made a transaction, maybe didn't, to sell a firearm. But what you're left with is a feeling of, I don't ever want to be back in that place again. Right. I will never walk in these doors again. Right. So you try again and again and again. And that's what I've been talking to these folks about too. Centennial Gun Club is kind of the top. It's kind of the premier gun club here. And they're saying, we're kind of the best in town. And I'm like, best gun club in town? And like, yeah, I agree. But is your customer service anywhere near Chick-fil-A? No. So don't limit yourself to gun club. Are you the best?
Right.
Are you the best in the business? Because there's no reason why our customer service shouldn't be as good or better than Chick-fil-A. And we should sell milkshakes. I'm just kidding. What's up, Craig? Craig down the street. One of my heroes, a great guy. Anyways, that owns a Chick-fil-A down the street. But it's saying that if you should feel that when you walk in the door. So you can write "In God We Trust" on the side of the building,
right?
But I don't feel it. And you can say whatever you want. I've been on websites that mention Jesus and guns and all that. They creep me out, bro. They're like, I'm like, this is not, I think you're using these out of context Bible verses to sell training classes, right? That's obviously not what I'm trying to do. But as a, I consider myself, when you ever heard that, I'm in full-time ministry. And people say, you're a preacher? I'm not, but I'm in full-time ministry. And you should be too. So everything I do and everything my guys do, whether they're, whatever, share the same faith as I do and the same beliefs and all that, which most of them do, by the way. But even if they didn't, you are going to leave here better, right? Take care of one another. Our motto on this bracelet and on everything that we put on there. Well, check you out, homie. Thank you for wearing that. That comes from a Bible verse. Love one another. Okay. Right. Like the 1 Peter 5:2-4 talks about being a shepherd as opposed to anything else, not a sheepdog, none of this, none of that, a shepherd and what exactly that means. And it fits to a T with what we're doing. And then obviously Psalm 78:72 talks about, David shepherded them with integrity of heart, with skillful hands. He led them. Integrity and skillful hands. We put so much emphasis on the integrity of heart before we even consider skillful hands. Mm-hmm. So that is just such a thing to where I'm saying, if you're so confused about you, what good are you to them? And them, I mean, the hundreds of thousands of people you're going to encounter all day, every day, and they're looking at you and they got a notebook out trying to figure out the man they want to be.
Figure it out.
Right. So, and I'm not saying that I've got it figured out. I'm saying you got it figured out. No. I'm saying that when you're shooting with Jason and you finish and he goes, iron on iron. And I'm like, dude, I know what that means. And that feels good.
Sharpen that thing, Jimmy.
Sharpen it, right? And it works both ways. Every class I teach, I get better too. People forget about that. They're like, oh yeah, you've taught all these classes and people get better. So do I, and somebody mentions something in class or we're having a late night conversation about whatever. And then I'm like, I'm going to incorporate that in training and whatever. They're really the reason we called this Protector Culture podcast, I didn't want it called Able Shepherd. I don't want it just about what I do at work. This is no holds barred, brother. Right. So we got some stuff that we're going to cover that we've covered already that have to do with what men need, what women need. And you're going to catch me saying men and women. Don't jump all over me because we have women able shepherds and they're amazing. The next one, BK, you're backing me on this. What do we say, Thursday? Where we're going to record the women of able shepherd kind of thing. We're going to get some ladies in here talking about what does this mean to you, right? Now, I can relate more because I'm a man to the men, and I just feel like I'm called to pursue the heart of men, period. If shooting guns gets us in the same room,
that's right,
bro, I don't care what it is. You get like-minded, followers to advance the kingdom, and guns got in that room. I don't care if it was whatever, remote control cars. I don't know why that came to. I'm not in remote control cars, but I don't care what it is that gets people together. Once they are, you better get out of the way because there's some amazing things that can happen when all you do is provide an introduction. Right. So that's a big, big deal. So,
well, here's how this ties in. And so it ties in critically because you're talking about a training environment that is, it's a very intimate environment, very close proximity, and you're talking about life and death.
Yeah.
And so these experiences that you confront within your own skill set,
yeah.
The environment's right there. Feedback is immediate. Was that excellent? Was it not excellent?
Demonstrate excellence.
Demonstrate excellence, brother. And so why it's so critical because of the nature of this exact environment where it's life and death.
Yeah.
To not have the overlay of that value set of what you believe in.
Yeah.
In this environment, you might not get a second chance.
Sure.
And so if that's the case, where are you at? And so that's, to me, it's inseparable. And so I love it. And the community here. So, coming down from Missoula and, after being boxed up for all of this crazy
COVID
environment. And it's when that training environment gets opened back up, it means the community environment gets opened back up. And so there's this whole community that's chomping at the bit, A, to get back at it, B, to be with each other. And so we finish up training, and I don't know, that last class ends at like 9 or something. Mm-hmm. And then everybody's hanging out until whenever, because it's like everybody's wearing smiles and hugging, grown men hugging and sharing love. It's like,
what's up,
I can feed off that.
It is absolutely addictive, and it blows my mind that most men don't have something like that.
Yeah.
Because Skip calls it the third thing or the other thing. Could be the fourth thing if you're talking about church, but he's like, they go to work.
Yeah.
They go home. So they got their family life. They got their work life. Yeah. What's going to be that third thing? Some people say church. Okay, I get that. My faith isn't another thing. It's the umbrella over everything. So I got my faith here, and I got basically my work life. I got my home life. What's that other thing? And I think we're built for community. And you want to know, A, as a man, do I have what it takes? The other thing you want to know, am I alone out here, or has anybody got my back?
And that's how I felt. Yeah.
And then you turn around and you see 100 dudes standing there. It's a big deal. It is a big, big deal. And they're there for the right reasons. Whatever. If I was selling something and handing out money, I'm sure there'd be a bunch of people. I just don't have any money. So it's like when people say, this guy's standing over here behind the camera, that dude, he set all this up on his own. He just comes in and be like, what can I do for Able Shepherd? And, that you don't make it without those guys. You know what I mean? So these people, it blows my mind. I'm going to write a book someday. Pinkham's been on me about this. We say these things, and it won't be a Navy SEAL book, that's for sure, but whatever. It might have, hey, this guy's whatever. But it'll be this community piece. We had our community carriers through COVID. You know what I mean? We stopped classes too. And it was an amazing thing. And we're coming out of the other end of it. And now there's this, this light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. And it's going to be way better. It's going to be 10 times better than it was. So that's exciting stuff. So when you talk about you guys you're coming in from Montana, Nick's Maine, all these people. Nick said a similar thing, and I told you this. I think I've said it on a podcast. He got some bad news about his health and was heading down to Florida for some treatments. And he goes, hey man, God is doing something amazing in Colorado, and he's doing it through Able Shepherd. I need to come be near it, glean some strength so I can go face what's ahead of me in Florida. Bro, that's the deal. That is the good stuff. That you can't miss that.
Yeah.
That is a huge responsibility for us. And I feel that if you're a kind of guy that takes this seriously, like the responsibility, one, efficiency, and two, being able to protect your family, yes, but the efficiency of training. Like I tried to, get back into jiu-jitsu recently and all that stuff. It was just so efficient. It was so inefficient. It was painful the way it was delivered. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I don't have the patience to do whatever, but like some of those things, like when you say, every single time this was super efficient, it was super professional. And when I left, I was better. Boom, whatever. Sometimes that is worth, and I'll just give you an example. Overseas, there are guys in protective postures that at night they would drink too much. Okay. I'm not picking on anybody, whatever. I'm not your dad. Do whatever you want. But when I'm over there, you don't get to pick when something happens at an embassy or wherever. So if something happens at 1 a.m. and I'm not 100%, I take that very, very seriously. I've been on moves where if I had just got a bad feeling, somebody would offer me tea and I'd be like, shukran, thank you. No, I'm good. I don't want any of that, right? Or I would accept it. They'd walk away and I'd throw it in the bushes, and somebody'd be like, hey, what are you doing, man? You don't like their tea? And I'm like, brother. And this was with a female. That I'm there to protect. And she was like, you don't drink their whatever. And I was like, well, all I know is if I wanted to take you, I would poison me. You know what I mean? Because it makes sense. Right. I'm laying in the bushes, irking and jerking, and they just run off with you. What kind of protector am I? There are other people like, dude, you're freaking out, whatever. Then you're not serious about this. Mm-hmm. This is a big, big deal. So like if you say, I'm a pretty good shot, I can protect my kids, blah, 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 and you've never done anything like that, you might want to entertain that. And if that's not the case and you don't know how to do this stuff, then you might want to look into it. So I think that's when people are looking, like yourself and others. And this was Nick. He's like, I did everything in town and nobody did this, but I did find this a plane right away.
Right.
Some similar kind of journey.
Absolutely that kind of journey. when you said efficiency in training, and I'm thinking about the experience that we had. So we come down, and one of the things that I really appreciate is the structure of training progression. Everybody starts in the same place. We all got to be speaking the same language. We have to define the vocabulary so we all know exactly what we're talking about. And so we come down for that first week, and we're going through the protecting our people. And so we're learning. When I'm saying
that's the
learning,
first class that we offer. So it's a prerequisite. You got to go through that first day, 4-hour class called Protecting Our People.
Yep. And then that leads into the next pieces. But what I appreciate about starting at the baseline is then in a very formal learning environment like that, we can identify, we meaning Leslie and I, can identify how we're going to communicate with each other and what we mean when we say a specific thing. And it's not like we didn't have the opportunity to do that in all of the years prior to that, but we didn't. And so here we are in this formal environment, and Jimmy Graham's showing us how to communicate through that stuff, right? And so it was vastly more efficient to do that than to just kind of make it up as we're going. And then as we went through the progression, and I'm thinking about the piece of the learning environment where if at my house it's 3:30 in the morning, and somebody comes blowing through my front door, hooked on bath salts or whatever it is, right? And now Leslie's got this experience of shoot, no shoot.
Yeah.
And what an amazing place to get to fail at that with Abel Shepherd and going through the training. What an amazing place to get to fail at that. Because if I'm not failing at it under that roof, I'm going to fail at it under my roof.
Right.
And I don't want to fail at that under my roof. And so that element of the training absolutely is worth the drive, because that you're not going to get that anywhere. And so, I don't know if you want to go into that part of, and I just was down at the shop earlier, and I saw some folks going through that part of the experience.
Yeah.
And you want to flip a light switch on in the brain, like it's real.
I love, and you've seen that before, haven't you? Have you ever seen anybody complete that other than yourself?
No.
That's one of my favorite things in the world, because it is night and day. Like right when they come out of that scenario room and they just shot the dude with his hands up for the first time and they've never had that experience, they almost come out expecting me to scald them. Like, well, you screwed up and you screwed up, you screwed up, and you pack your stuff and roll out, whatever.
Today was the first day I got to experience that, and you just described the look on some of the faces. You just hit it.
And then you come out and you counter that with, listen, I don't even care what happened in that room. We know. You guys know. We don't have to pull. I know it's videoed, by the way. It is on there. If you did the wrong thing. We were just looking for a baseline. So now I know how to better help you. Like you individually, if you shot this person, they came out with their hands up. Remember, the police were in here last week saying run, hide, fight. This person was running to you for help and you shot them. That was not part of the plan. And they go, ooh. And I don't care. Like I said, you don't fail, but now we have a baseline. Let's work on why your finger was on the trigger and why you shot so quickly before you did your assessment. Okay, no worries, because you're going to do this, by the way, 50 more times, 100 more times, whatever, in the course of the training. And you see them relax. Oh, good. So you're not going to tell my boss and you're not going to tell. No, we're just going to roll through. We're going to keep on going and you're going to get better. I was like, I'll tell them, this is our guarantee. You're going to get better. You're going to leave here better every time you walk in. Every time you walk in the door, you walk out better. And they go, whew. However, we cannot skip over the fact that we must get this better. Like you're going to be in phase 1 until you prove to me that you can not shoot the person that runs out with no gun in their hand and their hands in the air. So if you're that person that I'm blasting everything that moves, you will stay in phase 1 for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? If you can figure that out, you may now go to phase 2, because now it gets even more, intense. And, basically the technical, quite frankly, and then phase 3 with an AR and all that stuff. So it's a huge, huge thing in empowering people. And I love, there's a book out there called Story Brand. I think that's what it's called. And it's Donald Miller. And it's amazing. It's an amazing book. talking about basically the honor of guiding people through certain things like this. I don't want to be the hero of your family, brother. I want you to be. You already are. There's nothing I can do about that, but I can make you more successful at protecting them. So if somebody says, I don't know how to do this, just like if I was going to go welding, one of my hobbies is welding. I'm not very good at it. But if I want to become an amazing welder, I would get somebody who knows how to weld. They would show me, and then I could do that. So, in my son's eyes, I'm going to be this amazing dude that knows how to weld. Well, why? Because that guy showed me, whatever. So I think.
You know the welder you're going to pick.
Are you a welder?
No.
Oh.
You're going to pick the welder that demonstrates excellence.
That's right. Yeah, we have this conversation going, and I love this term. I used it today. I will roll into lunch, and I go, guess what I said today? He's like, I want to come back with something clever. But Jimmy, what did you say? I said, demonstrate excellence. Because I think that was when we talked again the other night. When you come in town, we're not just training for 2 hours. We're going to train. We're going to go talk 15 times, and we're going to have some Coors Lights, and we're going to sit there and eat red meat or whatever. Yeah. But I love the fact that you were talking about that, because one of your businesses is about education. The term you use, demonstrate excellence. So demonstrating excellence, basically, if I can demonstrate excellence to another instructor, to my student, and they can demonstrate that back, learning has taken place. Now we move on. Demonstrate excellence. Show you do that. Demonstrate excellence. And then when my instructors can do the same thing, and now we can continue. I love that. So I want to entertain that further. But now that's kind of our demonstrate. That's right. I will find a welder that demonstrates excellence. And he can stack dimes, and then I can stack dimes, if you know what that means. But anyways, I think that too, it was humbling to me when I started the business that I started it by myself, when everything I've done in my professional life was teams, meaning that guy's strength covers my weakness in that area. My strength covers his weakness in that area. And what you end up with is an unstoppable team. So we said this at the Sage's house the other night. Neil Pinkham, what's up? I really feel like this, like I've told Rachel about this. She could tell you all about these conversations times 50 or whatever. But at one point in my life, I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to train everyone. And I feel like God's putting these puzzle pieces on the table, and he's just giggling as he's snapping them down on the table. This one says, Jason Campbell. This one says Brian Karch. This one says Neil Pinkham. This one says whatever. And all of these, and he's just waiting to laugh his head off when he figures out, when I figure out how to put them all together. Like, oh my gosh. When he puts all these together and flips the whole thing over, the picture it makes is going to be amazing. I've felt like that for years, and it's actually happening. So it's a big, big deal. So anyways, there's so much more, brother. I've got you in town for only a day or two. I don't even know when you're going home. You've already extended once. I want another one. So we're going to basically take a break. We're going to come back next week on next week's podcast, and we're going to go ahead and put a pause in here, close this one up, and then we're going to come back at you with another one. So thanks for being here, brother. We'll hang tight. We'll cut another one in just a second, but I want to basically sign off for now. And, man, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about some business stuff, and I want to talk about Montana, because you said something the other day about, man, we could have crossed paths many times. I
love talking about Montana.
And I want to talk about the jack.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you want to know what the jack is, and you do, by the way, you need to tune in next week, because this is a big deal. This talks about the Lineage Ride 2019 and what just happened this past summer, where Jason linked up with us coming through Montana. And I want to talk about the lumberjack and a black trident that's pounded into the wall down there, and the backstory on that. So we're going to sign off, guys. Do us a favor. Give us a 5-star. Oh, first off, thanks, brother. I appreciate you being here.
Welcome.
You my man. And please give us a 5-star rating for the podcast right now. And then watch the video version on protectorculture.com. Join us on Abel Shepherd. So join us on Facebook at Abel Shepherd, and learn more about Abel Shepherd, the training program, at abelshepherd.com. That's ABLESHEPHERD.com. And until next time, God bless each of you. Until we're again together, take care of one another.